Welcome to Crafty Hints. I'm Chantel, and again, I'm happy to have you join me today for some 4th of July DIYs. Let's get to the first one. I took this soup can, actually I think this was a bean can, and I cleaned it all off. I used a little bit of the Goo Gone spray gel to help take off that extra glue. And now I have these 2 bandanas from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just measuring this around. And then I will trim it off. I'm also going to use a bigger can. So that one was, actually I think it was like a double can of pinto beans. My family likes to make these beans for family get-together. It's kind of a barbecue bean sort of thing. Anyways, so save those bean cans because there's great other ways to take care of those besides recycling. We can reuse them. So I'm taking a little bit of hot glue and I'm just going to roll this on. Since this is so thin, you don't want to use too much glue. Just a little dab will do. And you also don't want too much with the metal. Sometimes the hot glue and the metal don't work well together, but it stayed really well. And I just used a natural seam right there on this bandana to be my closing seam. I thought that was kind of nice. And then on the top, I just folded it in, and on the bottom, I'm going to kind of fold it like a gift, like you would do the end of a gift. So I'm just going to fold in this side, then I'll fold down this side, trim off a little bit of that extra, and then just fold in those 2 triangle sides. And I'll give it a nice, clean, finished edge. I'm just using that little silicone mask applicator. Again, I picked that up at the Dollar Tree in the makeup section. And now I'm going to use just a little bit of glue to go in here and tack that down. Next, on this larger can, I'm using my Waverly Crimson Red chalk paint. And I'm going to paint the whole can. And it just took 1 coat. While that's drying, I'm going to go back to my first can and I'm going to use some of this nautical rope. This is the thinner one. I wish I had just 1 thickness down from this. I think that would have been perfect. And now when you cut this, make sure to cut it at an angle because all those little strings tend to want to go wild. So if you give them a little bit of glue on the end, they stay nice and together and tight. So I'm going to cut this other end and make sure that they match up nicely together. If you don't like those silicone fingertip things that you can find, in the craft area at Dollar Tree, this silicone applicator works really well to just push things down. All right, we'll get those meshed up really nice and tight, butted up against each other and make them look like 1 rope. And then I did the same around the bottom edge. Now for this one, I was trying to decide how far apart I would do these. I just cut strips of vinyl. You could do this with scissors. You could do this with your Cricut or whatever cutter you have. And I just pulled them a little bit tighter around. And 1, they adhered to the can better. 2, they lined up better. So now I'm going to do this with the rope at the top. Once again, cutting that at an angle. And I do see that some of the vinyl starting to lift up a little bit down there. I did find running my fingernail in the grooves or your fingertips, kind of press that in tight, helped it adhere. You can also use the white vinyl from, the Crafter's Square at Dollar Tree. So lots of things you can do. You could use washi tape. You could use white paint. You could use white duct tape. I'm just, again, trying to make some stripes, going along with that bandana. You could have also used the stripes from the other part of the bandana, but I will use that in a different craft for my next Independence Day video. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so as you saw, I just unwound some of the rope and it comes off in like 3 strands, but that's still a little bit thick for these beads. I grabbed that bag of beads again at the Dollar Tree. Some great deals there. Just making sure those don't fray up. And then I just make a little knot and attach the beads, and aren't those nice? I've got my forks and my spoons and my straws and some napkins from the Dollar Tree. So a couple great things to help embellish your table. This is part of a wonderful collab. God bless the USA. Our host is Amanda, a very dear friend from 6 Kids and a Glue Gun. And my other great friend, Brenda. She is so sweet. She's from Rustic and Lace DIY. Make sure to visit their channels and subscribe. Also, there's a playlist below with a bunch of great videos with this theme. Let's get to DIY 2. I took that 4-inch square and I painted that in crimson. Then I had a little star off of another DIY that I saved. I painted those in the ocean. Also, some more Waverly chalk paints. And then I painted this one in plaster. I believe I put this on the back of my sign to give it a little bit of a stand. Then while I'm painting these things, I never want to waste what paint I have. So these are some of the star beads that I have from the Dollar Tree. So I painted some in blue. I painted some in plaster. And then I did cut this out of my Cricut. But you, of course, could use some stickers. You could use a paint marker and write this on if you like your handwriting. But this is Land of the Free because of the brave. And now I'm just dry brushing a little bit of plaster on there so it just doesn't look so bright and stark. And look at this, that dry brush on the star just brought out all of those raised ridges. Next, I'm just wrapping that edge with a little bit of jute twine and adhering that down. Just a little bit more dry brushing there around the edges of that star. Oh, I just love how that star turned out. You can just see every little, I don't know. I love it. Hopefully you do too. Now it did have a hole at the top, so I'm just going to take that, wrap my jute twine around it, and we'll just make it look like that hole was for this sign. So I just wrap that around a few times at the top of the star, and then I'll take the rest of that and wrap it around my sign. That little point is just a little bit harder to make sure you get it all attached quite the way you want, but it only takes a moment or two. Okay, as I said, we're going to just place this on here, get it where we want it, and then wrap the tail of this twine right around there. And then I'm going to just tuck it underneath the star and trim off the extra. So fairly simple. And again, you can make this yours and put that writing on however you'd like. And now I'm just adhering down that star, but I think it's missing something. So some of those other little stars that I painted earlier, I'm going to adhere. So I have one of the white ones. Now these stars come from the Dollar Tree and you'll find them in the bag, and they're silver and they're gold and they're bronze. So I thought that with the theme I've got going here, the white would be pretty. You'll have to let me know what you think. I also take some tumbling tower blocks and just adhere those as I was showing you on the back as feet. All right, and here it is. I think that's pretty and a wonderful saying. All right, let's get to DIY 3. I started out with this frame that is from the Dollar Tree, and it has like a faux wood. So I painted that in plaster, and now I'm going over it with some antique wax. Now that antique wax will just get down into those nooks and crannies. I just kind of wanted to see it, but not too much. Now I cut this out on my Cricut. This is sparkle, and I did this on some cardstock. Now, way back when I scrapbooked and I didn't have a Cricut, I cut these things out. I would print them on the opposite side in reverse as a mirrored image, and then cut them out with my X-Acto knife. I'll have to show you how to do that sometime if you haven't done it before. That's another great way to do it. Now, I cut this out also with some scrapbook paper, and then I cut out the shadow of it in a navy blue. And again, just using my glue stick to adhere this. I will give you a link to the SVG that I made myself, so that you could do this as well if you want to use that. Otherwise, you can use your own block lettering if you like that idea. And the cursive font down there, I always get a question about that. It's Raustila, Raustila, I think. I found that at dafont.com. I can link that down below as well. You're going to have to let me know which one is your favorite. These all are so different. So you have to let me know. Do you like this? I know I don't cut out a lot of things in paper with my Cricut, but would you like to see some more items cut out that way? Or what would you like to see? Okay, now I use these little pop dots. They're just little foam pieces on the back of the stars, and I thought this is where I was going to put them. But after I got the sparkle on there, and I'm also putting it on the back of the sparkle, so they're a little bit 3D, it just adds some neat dimension to it. If you haven't used the foam tape before, I suggest it. It just gives another appeal to your item. It just, it stands up with that little bit of 3D. And these erasers that you find at the Dollar Tree, I've heard people say, those don't work on anything. They do. Like if you use like the glue stick or the glue from those tabs, once that, sets, you go back in and you take it, it takes it right off your paper and doesn't leave anything on your paper. Now with this bow, I ended up only using 2 loops. So make your bow as big as you want with 2 loops. And then I'm going to just take a piece and wrap it around there after I tie the center of this off with some jute twine. So again, I made 2 loops adhered them with some glue, set them on top of each other, and now I'm just bunching up the center and tying that with some jute twine. Then clip that off, and then I'm just trimming down a piece and folding in the sides a bit so we have a nice edge. And that will be the center of the bow that we're just going to wrap around and glue on the back. Super simple bow. Just pulling that tight around there so it gives it a nice, pretty finish bow. Now a little bit of hot glue, and that just helps finish that off. You can see I moved those stars. What do you think? Were they better next to the two, or do you like them with one at the beginning of sparkle and the other three at the bottom? Now I'm just wrapping this corner, as you can see, kind of like a gift as you would in the corner. Trim that little piece out, and then I'll just glue this down. More like upholstery, I guess. And here it is. I think the stars look better where they are. But again, I always want to see in the comments what you think. You can see now that 3-dimension. And oh, those blue stars kind of accent the white stars on the flag. I think these all go so pretty together. Let's get to DIY 4. Now, this kind of partners up with DIY 2. But I found these little wood cutouts at the Dollar Tree, and look, that's a little tic-tac-toe box. You know I'm going to reuse that and make a tic-tac-toe thing for my nieces and nephews. Okay, I cut out God Shed His Grace on Thee. I think that this is just pretty. I painted another one of those 4x4 squares from the Dollar Tree of wood with ocean. Now I'm just doing this so it accents the other one. As you can see, I put the same to the left on this one, and on the other one I put on the right. And now I'll just use a jute on the opposite side as well so that they can be 2 accent pieces. Now these are fairly similar. They're not identical, but I wanted to kind of show this as another way. Maybe you have some wood cutout, so this is another way to do it. You know, some other colors, a little more dry brushing. But these, I think, go well together and a wonderful part of that song. Okay, so that wood star I had painted in crimson, and now I'm dry brushing the edges of that. And maybe it doesn't quite have the dimension of the other star, but when you're just digging through your craft supplies, you never know what you're going to find that you might just fit what you're working on that you never even intended to. So always take one more look to see what else might work. Okay, we had a blue star on the other one, now a red star on this one, and now I'm going to take a white and a blue of the beads that I had painted. Oh, I love it. Now I'm again going to put those feet on the back. Super simple to do. Just the tumbling tower blocks, and watch for those. Often they have, you know, the double size box, which, gosh, I think that's a 72, and then the other ones are 36. And here it is, and here they are on opposite sides. Let's go to our final DIY, and this one is one of my favorites. I took this wood round, and it's a thin one from the Dollar Tree, from the Crafter's Square. I'm going to take some painter's tape and just tape that off. And this is just painted in ocean. Now, oh, here's a crafty hint. Wrap your brush in between while you're waiting for paint to dry, and you might need some touch-ups. Wrap your brush in just some plastic wrap. Now, these rounds I found after or while I was painting that they weren't quite smooth, so give that a good sanding first, but you can always give it a little bit of a sanding even after. And oh, look at that nice crisp edge. I love it. Okay, I'm going back to put my tape right at the edge of the blue. And then I'm going to put it right at the edge of the white. That's going to keep our pretty crisp lines. And now I'm going to come in with a little bit of that crimson again. This is such a nice pigmented red paint. Oh, and I did find a spot there before I started painting. And you'll see I'm painting from the tape out, not from the center down to the tape. That helps keep your crisp lines. Just a few crafty hints here. But yes, when you wrap that brush, as I was telling you, that'll keep your brush from drying out. It keeps the paint wet on there when you might need to do. Oh, and there we did again with the brush in case I needed some touch-ups or another coat of paint. And look at those. Oh, they turned out so nice. I think this is just the Duck brand of painter's tape. I did find one little spot that wasn't quite as dark as I wanted. So I just went back in with a little touch-up brush, and there it is. Now, I did go with my Cricut here. I did think about, again, you can use some transfer paper, write it on there, and then go in with a paint pen and write it also. I'll have to do that for those of you that maybe don't have a Cricut. But here's the other thing. Watch for them. Right now, they've moved on to the Cricut 3. So the Explorer 2 is often on sale for $149. And it's a great investment if you're a crafter. I'm not saying it's cheap, but it's a great investment. I still have the Explorer 1. And it's still going strong. And I got that on clearance when they came out with the 2. That's how I was able to afford it. Saved Christmas money, saved birthday money. You do what you gotta do, but such a handy tool. Now for this bow, I just sat there and wrapped it and wrapped it and wrapped it and wrapped it around in a circle. And then I just folded the tails in a V facing the opposite way. And now I put a zip tie there and I'm taking some twine. I'll make a knot so that I have a hanger. And now you just pull those loops out and kind of give them a little bit of a twist on each side, and that'll give you a nice full bow. This is not wired ribbon, so it doesn't quite twist up as well as wired ribbon does and stay in its place. So you might have to pull them up just a little bit, maybe give them just a dot of glue underneath if you want them to stay a certain way. Now just a little bit of glue, cover up our dots, and here we are. Oh my goodness. Isn't that pretty? I appreciate you watching this though. I really hope that you've enjoyed this theme and it inspired you a little bit. I'd love to hear what you might make. Here's a couple of the items that we saw today. Let me know which one was your favorite. I can't wait to read your comments. And again, I will reply to each and every one of those. So thanks so much again for watching. And here will be a couple more videos you might enjoy. Don't forget to visit the playlist. Thank you and have a great day.